The night settles softly over the city, though it is never fully quiet. Somewhere far below the dim glow of a street lamp, a carriage wheel rolls slowly over uneven stone. The sound is steady and low, like a distant memory that repeats itself without effort. A horse exhales into the cool air, and its breath drifts for a moment, pale and weightless, before fading into the dark. This is New York City in the year 1905. It is a place that does not rest easily. But tonight, as the world around you grows still, you may step gently into this older time. You may walk quietly through narrow streets, past tall brick walls and dim windows, and feel what it was like to live here, to endure here, in a place that was always moving, always breathing. There is no need to hurry. Everything moves slowly. The air itself feels heavy, carrying the scent of coal smoke that rises from chimneys across the city. It drifts between buildings and settles into clothing, into wood, into the very fabric of daily life. There are other smells, too, softer but constant: damp stone, horse leather, and the quiet presence of waste left along the edges of crowded streets. Nothing stands alone. Everything blends together. The buildings rise close to one another, their brick faces darkened by soot and time. Windows glow faintly from within, lit by candles, oil lamps, or the early uncertain flicker of electric light. Some windows are open just slightly, allowing a thin breath of air to pass through rooms that rarely feel fresh. Inside these buildings, life continues in small, quiet ways. In a narrow tenement apartment, a family rests together. The room is small, its walls close, its ceiling low enough to feel almost protective. A thin mattress lies across the floor, shared by children who sleep side by side. Their breathing is slow and even, rising and falling in a gentle rhythm. Nearby, an adult remains awake for a little while longer. A candle burns low on a wooden surface, its flame steady but soft. The light moves gently across the room, touching worn furniture, folded cloth, and simple belongings. Hands move slowly, finishing the last task of the day, careful not to wake those who are already at rest. The quiet here is never complete. There is always a sound somewhere. A distant voice, a footstep above, the soft creak of wood as someone shifts in another room. These sounds are familiar. They are part of the rhythm of living so close together. In 1905, many people in this city live in places like this. The buildings are called tenements. They are built quickly, filled quickly, and lived in fully. Rooms are divided again and again until each space holds more life than it was ever meant to carry. Walls are thin, air is shared, privacy is rare. But still, people find ways to live. They create routines. They build small moments of comfort within the narrow space they have. As the night slowly fades, the city begins to change, not suddenly, but in quiet layers. The darkness softens, the sky lightens just enough to be noticed, and with that change, the first signs of morning begin to appear. A faint clatter echoes from far away, then another. The sound of wheels turning over stone returns, steady and patient. Horses begin to move again, guided through the streets by figures who know these paths by heart. Their steps are unhurried but certain. Morning does not arrive all at once. It unfolds gently. Inside the tenement, the adult who stayed awake finally sets aside their work. The candle is lowered, its flame shrinking before it disappears entirely. For a brief moment, the room rests in near darkness, held in a quiet pause between night and day. Then, slowly, movement begins again. A child stirs, shifting beneath a shared blanket. Another follows. Eyes open, adjusting to the dim light that now enters through a small window. There is no rush, but there is an understanding that the day has already started beyond these walls. The room feels cool. The air is still. Clothing is gathered, Shoes are found. Each action is small, familiar, repeated day after day without thought. These routines are steady, like the rhythm of breathing. In another part of the building, a stove is being lit. Coal is placed carefully, and a small flame is coaxed into life. It grows slowly, giving off a quiet warmth that begins to push back against the chill of the early morning. A pot is set above it, and soon the faint sound of heating water joins the growing chorus of the waking city. Outside, the streets begin to fill, not quickly, but steadily. Pushcarts are rolled into place along the edges of the road. Their wooden wheels creak softly as they settle. Vendors arrange their goods with quiet care. Fresh vegetables, loaves of bread, simple items needed for daily life. Each object is placed with attention, as if order itself brings a kind of calm.
There is no loud calling yet, only preparation. Overhead, lines stretch between buildings carrying pieces of laundry that sway gently in the morning air. Shirts, cloths, and linens move slowly, touched by a breeze that rarely reaches the ground below. The sky continues to brighten, and with it, the sounds of the city grow. Footsteps become more frequent. Voices rise, still soft, but now more present. Doors open and close. The rhythm of movement becomes more layered, more complete. A man steps into the street, adjusting his coat as he begins his walk to work. His path is familiar. He does not need to think about where he is going. Each turn, each crossing is known through repetition. Around him, others move in the same quiet way. Each person carries their own day ahead. Each step is part of a larger flow. There is no single story here. Instead, there are many. A woman stands by her pushcart, arranging produce in careful rows. Her hands move slowly, deliberately, as if each motion holds meaning. Nearby, a child watches, learning without being told. In another street, a group of workers gathers before heading toward the factories. Their voices are low, their expressions calm but tired. The day ahead will be long, but it is a day like many before it. There is comfort in that familiarity, even when life is difficult. Back inside the tenement, breakfast is being prepared. It is simple. Bread is divided into portions. A small amount of something warm is shared carefully. There is no excess, but there is enough to begin the day. Each person eats slowly, quietly, aware of the time, but not rushed by it. The window allows a thin line of light to enter the room. Dust moves through that light, drifting in soft patterns that change with the smallest movement of air. It is a small detail, easily missed, but always present. Outside, the city continues to wake, and as it does, its true nature begins to show. Not loud or sudden, but steady, layered, and constant. A place where survival is not dramatic. It is quiet. It is patient. It is lived one small moment at a time. And as the morning settles fully over New York City, the rhythm of the day begins to take shape, carrying thousands of lives forward together, each one moving carefully through the narrow spaces of a city that never truly pauses. The light grows a little stronger, the sounds deepen slightly, and the long day, with all its quiet challenges, has only just begun. The morning light settles more fully now, though it never feels bright in the narrow streets. It moves slowly between the buildings, touching only the highest edges first. The lower levels remain in shadow, where the air is cooler and the ground still holds the dampness of the night. In these shaded spaces, the day begins in a quieter way, as if it is still waking. The streets of New York City are no longer empty. They are gently alive. A steady flow of movement continues to build, not rushed, but constant. People step around one another with quiet awareness. There is little space, but there is understanding. Everyone knows how to move within the crowd, how to pass without stopping, how to continue forward without interruption. The sound of hooves returns again and again. Horses move through the streets with slow strength, pulling wagons that carry goods from one place to another. Their pace is steady,
their presence calm. Now and then, one will pause, shifting its weight slightly, its harness creaking softly as it waits for the path ahead to clear. Drivers sit above them, holding the reins loosely but with control. Their eyes move over the street, watching, adjusting, guiding without urgency. There is no sharp command, only quiet direction. Along the sidewalks, pushcart vendors begin their day in full. The simple displays prepared earlier now draw attention. A woman stops to examine a bundle of vegetables, turning them gently in her hands. A few coins pass from one hand to another, small and careful. Every exchange feels measured. Nothing is wasted. Nearby, the scent of fresh bread drifts from a small bakery tucked into the ground floor of a building. The door opens and closes slowly as customers step inside, one at a time. Warm air escapes briefly with each movement, carrying with it a comforting smell that lingers for a moment before fading into the street. Inside, the work never really stopped. Through the night, dough was shaped, ovens were kept warm, and hands moved steadily in the quiet hours. Now, as morning fully arrives, the results of that work are placed on simple wooden shelves, ready for the day ahead. Further down the street, a different rhythm begins to form. Children move in small groups, their steps lighter, their voices softer than the adults around them. Some carry small items, tools or bundles, ready to assist their families or begin their own work. Others walk towards places of learning, though such moments are often brief in lives that require early responsibility. Their presence brings a different kind of motion, not faster, but more fluid. They move between the adults, adapting easily, learning the patterns of the city simply by being within it. Above them, the buildings continue to hold their quiet weight. From certain windows, figures can be seen moving slowly. A curtain shifts. A face appears for a moment, looking down at the street below, observing the steady flow of life. Then, just as quietly, it disappears again. Inside these rooms, the day unfolds in its own way. Clothing is washed in small basins, water carried carefully from shared sources. Floors are swept with simple tools, the motion slow and repetitive. Meals are prepared with limited ingredients, each one used thoughtfully. Nothing is done quickly, everything is done with purpose. The narrow hallways of the tenements carry sound in soft echoes. Footsteps move along wooden floors, doors open and close with gentle creaks. Voices travel from one room to another, blending together into a low, constant murmur. It is not loud, it is simply always there. In one small room, a woman pauses near the window. She opens it slightly, just enough to allow a thin line of air to enter. It is not fresh, but it moves, and that movement brings a small sense of relief. She stands there for a moment longer than needed, not resting, but simply being still. Outside, the street continues its quiet work. A cart loaded with barrels passes slowly, its wheels pressing firmly against the stone. The man guiding it walks beside it, one hand resting lightly on the wood, as if maintaining a connection to its weight and balance. Across the way, a tailor opens his shop. The door swings inward, revealing a narrow space filled with fabric, thread, and carefully arranged tools. Light enters slowly, settling across the surfaces. Dust rises slightly as it is disturbed, then falls again, unnoticed. He begins his work without delay. There is always something to be done. Time in this city does not rush, but it does not pause either. It moves forward steadily, carrying each person with it, whether they notice or not. As the morning deepens, the streets become more full.
The spaces between people grow smaller. Voices layer gently on top of one another, forming a soft, continuous sound that feels almost like a distant tide. It rises and falls, but never disappears. And yet, within this movement, there are moments of stillness. A man pauses at the corner, adjusting the weight of what he carries. A child stops briefly, watching a passing wagon with quiet curiosity. A woman stands at her cart, her hands resting for just a moment before continuing their work. These pauses are small, but they are real. They exist quietly within the larger flow. The sky above remains pale,
its light softened by the haze that hangs over the city. Smoke rises in thin lines from countless chimneys, blending into the air until it becomes part of the sky itself. It is a constant presence, like the sound of wheels, like the rhythm of footsteps, like the quiet effort of living. Back inside the tenements, the morning tasks begin to settle into routine. Beds are folded away or rearranged to make space. The same room that held sleep now becomes a place for work, for eating, for living in every sense. Space is never fixed. It changes with the needs of the moment. A small table becomes a place for preparing food, then a place for mending clothing, then a place for gathering in the evening. Each use flows into the next without interruption. There is a kind of quiet adaptability in this, a way of shaping life within limits. Outside, a bell rings faintly in the distance. It is not loud, but it carries. Some recognize it as a signal to begin work. Others hear it without reacting, already deep into their own routines. The city does not move in perfect unison, but its rhythms often align in subtle ways. Factories begin to draw in workers. Doors open, and people step inside, one after another, until the outside quiets slightly again. Within those buildings, a different world takes shape, one filled with its own sounds, its own patterns, its own steady demands. But on the streets, life continues, always continuing. A breeze moves through, light and brief, carrying with it the layered sense of the city. It touches faces, shifts clothing, stirs loose papers, then fades as quickly as it arrived. The moment passes, and the rhythm remains. In New York City, survival is not something spoken about often. It is simply lived. In the careful use of food, in the steady pace of work, in the quiet sharing of space, in the way each day begins and ends without ceremony. And as the morning moves closer to midday, the city settles into its full rhythm, neither calm nor chaotic, but something in between, something steady and enduring. A place where life continues, gently and persistently, one small moment after another. As the morning slowly leans toward midday, the light above New York City grows a little stronger, though it never feels wide or open. It filters down in narrow paths, slipping between buildings and touching only certain places for a short time before moving on. The streets remain mostly shaded, holding on to their coolness even as the day continues. The rhythm of movement does not change suddenly. It deepens. What began as a quiet unfolding in the early hours has now become a steady, layered flow. Each sound rests beside another, forming a soft and constant presence that fills the air without overwhelming it. Wheels continue to turn over stone. Footsteps continue to pass in steady patterns. Voices remain low, blending together into something that feels almost like a distant hum. Along the sidewalks, the pushcart vendors are now fully engaged in their day. Their hands move slowly but without pause. They weigh, sort, and arrange, always keeping a quiet awareness of the people who pass by. A customer stops. A brief exchange takes place. Coins are counted carefully, placed into a small container or pocket. The vendor nods slightly, and the moment passes without unnecessary words. There is a calmness in these repeated actions. They are familiar. They are dependable. Not far away, a narrow doorway leads into a stairwell that climbs upward through one of the many tenement buildings. Inside, the air feels different, still, slightly warmer, carrying the faint scent of cooking and fabric. The stairs creak softly under each step. Light from a small window reaches only part way down, leaving the lower steps in shadow. A person moves carefully upward, one hand resting lightly on the worn railing, feeling each step before shifting their weight. There is no rush here either, only steady movement. Behind the doors that line the hallway, life continues in quiet and closed spaces. A woman sits near a window, mending a piece of clothing. Her hands move with practiced ease, guiding the needle through fabric in slow, even motions. Each stitch is small. Each one matters. Nearby, a pot rests on a small stove, its contents warming gradually. The heat is not strong, but it is enough. It fills the room with a gentle warmth that contrasts with the cooler air near the walls. In another room, a child sits on the floor, occupied with a simple task. There are no elaborate toys, no unnecessary distractions. The world is made of small objects, of things that can be held, moved, understood through touch. The quiet here is different from the quiet of night. It is filled with presence. Outside, the streets carry on without pause. A group of workers passes by, their steps aligned without intention. Their clothing is worn but cared for, shaped by the demands of daily labor. Their expressions are calm, focused, holding a quiet awareness of the hours ahead. There is no need to speak much. The day is already understood. Further along, a streetcar moves slowly down its track, its metal frame giving off a soft, steady vibration. It does not move quickly. It does not need to. It follows its path with quiet certainty, carrying passengers who stand or sit in patient stillness. The sound it makes is consistent, a low, rolling presence that becomes part of the city's background. Overhead, the sky remains pale, softened by the haze that lingers above the rooftops. Smoke continues to rise from chimneys, though now it feels lighter, more spread out, as if it has become part of the air itself. Time passes in a way that is almost unnoticeable. There are no sharp changes, only gentle shifts. The angle of light moves slightly, the shadows stretch and soften. The sounds remain, but their pattern adjusts, growing a little fuller, a little more settled. In the markets, more people gather now, not in crowds, but in a steady flow that never fully stops. Hands reach out to examine goods. Heads tilt slightly as choices are made. Conversations remain brief, practical, and calm. Everything feels measured. Nothing feels wasted. A man pauses near a cart, considering a small purchase. He turns the item in his hand, feeling its weight, its texture. After a moment, he nods, completes the exchange, and continues on his way. The moment is simple, but it carries meaning. In this city, every small decision holds weight. Resources are limited. Time is valuable. Effort is constant. And yet, there is no sense of panic, only persistence.
Back in the tenement, the air has grown warmer as the day continues. The small spaces hold on to heat, keeping it close, allowing it to build slowly. Windows are opened where possible, though they offer only a narrow connection to the outside world. Still, that small opening matters. It allows a slight movement of air, a gentle shift, a reminder that beyond these walls, the city continues. In a shared hallway, footsteps pass one another without pause. A brief glance is exchanged, a quiet acknowledgement, then each person continues in their own direction. There is a kind of unspoken understanding here, a shared experience that does not need to be explained. Outside again, the streets carry a slightly different energy now. Not faster, but fuller. The spaces feel more complete, filled with the presence of those moving through them. Wagons pass more frequently. Voices overlap a little more. The rhythm becomes richer, layered with the accumulated movement of the day. And still, it remains calm in its own way, predictable, steady. The sun reaches its highest point, though its warmth is softened by the city itself. The buildings absorb much of its strength, holding it within their walls, reflecting only a portion back into the streets below. Shadows shorten slightly, then begin almost immediately to stretch again. Time moves forward without pause. A bell sounds again in the distance, marking a moment that some recognize and others simply pass through. Its tone is low, carried gently through the air before fading into the constant background. In a factory nearby, work continues without interruption. Hands move in repeated patterns. Machines create their own steady rhythm, one that blends with the sounds outside, but remains contained within those walls. The day there is measured not by the sun, but by the continuation of motion. There is comfort, in a way, in that repetition, even when it is tiring. Back on the street, a child walks beside an older figure, matching their pace as closely as possible. Their steps are smaller, but determined. They move together without speaking, sharing the same path, the same direction. The city holds them both, just as it holds everyone. In New York City, life does not pause to reflect on itself. It continues, quietly, steadily, through every small action, every repeated motion, every gentle step forward. And as the day begins its slow turn beyond midday, the rhythm remains unbroken, carrying each person onward, deeper into the long, patient hours that lie ahead. As midday begins to pass, the city settles into a quieter kind of fullness. The light over New York City softens slightly, losing the faint sharpness it held earlier. It spreads more evenly now, though still filtered by smoke and the narrow spacing of buildings. The streets do not brighten in a wide, open way. Instead, they glow gently, as if the day itself is being held back by the weight of the city. The movement continues, but with a subtle change. There is a slight slowing. Not a stop, not even a pause, but a gentle easing. Some workers step away from their tasks for a short time. They gather in small, quiet groups along the edges of buildings or sit on low steps where space allows. Their hands rest for a moment, shoulders lower slightly, releasing a small portion of the effort carried since morning. Meals are simple. A piece of bread, a small portion of something prepared earlier. Food is eaten slowly, without distraction. There is no need for conversation. The act itself is enough. Nearby, a man leans lightly against a wall, his gaze unfocused as he eats. His eyes do not fix on anything in particular. Instead, they rest somewhere between the movement of the street and the quiet space within his own thoughts. This moment is brief, but it is real. In another part of the street, a vendor adjusts the position of their cart, shifting it slightly to catch a better flow of passers-by. The wheels resist at first, then give way with a soft sound against the stone. Once settled, everything is arranged again with care. The pattern repeats, always repeating. Overhead, the laundry that hung earlier now moves more slowly. The air has grown heavier, and the breeze that once passed between the buildings has softened. The cloth hangs with a gentle stillness, occasionally stirred by the faintest movement of air. The sky remains pale. The haze does not lift. It rests over the city like a quiet veil, softening the edges of everything below. Inside the tenements, the warmth has settled deeply into the walls. Rooms feel close, the air thick but familiar. Those who remain indoors move slowly, conserving energy, allowing the day to pass without unnecessary effort. A woman sits near a table, her hands resting for a moment before continuing their work. The fabric before her is worn, but still useful. Each repair extends its life a little longer, and that is enough. Across the room, a child lies quietly, watching the faint movement of light across the wall. There is no urgency in this stillness. It is simply part of the day. The sounds within the building continue as they always do. Footsteps above, a door closing somewhere down the hall, the soft murmur of voices that rise and fall without ever becoming distinct. These sounds are constant. They form a kind of quiet presence that never leaves. Outside again, the street begins to shift once more. The brief stillness of midday does not last. Work resumes. Movement returns to its earlier rhythm, though now it carries the weight of hours already past. Steps are slightly heavier. Motions are just a little slower, but the pattern remains intact. A wagon moves through, its load stacked high.
The driver guides it carefully, adjusting the reins with small, practiced movements. The horse pulls steadily, its pace unchanged, its presence calm and enduring. People step aside without needing to be asked. The path opens, then closes again. Further along, a doorway opens, and a group of workers emerges into the light. They pause briefly, adjusting their clothing, stretching their arms, preparing to return to the tasks that await them. There is no resistance, only acceptance. The day continues because it must. In a nearby alley, the atmosphere is different, quieter, more still.
Here, the sounds of the main street are softened, reduced to distant echoes that drift in and out without urgency. The ground is uneven, the walls close, the air carrying a mixture of scents that linger without change. A figure passes through slowly, their footsteps measured, their presence brief. Then the alley returns to stillness. Moments like this exist throughout the city. Small pockets where the constant motion softens, where time feels slightly slower, even if only for a few seconds. But beyond these spaces, the larger rhythm continues without pause. Back on the main street, a streetcar passes once more, its steady movement unchanged. Inside, passengers sit quietly, their expressions calm, their bodies at rest even as they are carried forward. The sound of the wheels on the track is soft but constant. It blends into everything else. Above, the light begins its slow shift toward afternoon. It is not yet fading, but it has begun to change. The angle lowers slightly, shadows grow longer, stretching across the stone in thin, uneven lines. Time moves forward in this quiet way, without announcement, without interruption. In the markets, the flow of people continues, though now there is a subtle sense of completion beginning to form. Some purchases have already been made. Some needs have been met. The urgency of mourning has softened into something more measured. A woman gathers what she has bought, holding it carefully as she turns to leave. Her steps are steady, her path already known. She moves through the crowd without hesitation, part of the same quiet current that carries everyone forward. Back inside the tenement, preparations begin for the later part of the day. Small tasks are completed, spaces are adjusted again. The room that held work now begins to shift toward evening use, though that time has not yet arrived. Everything changes gradually, nothing all at once. In New York City, this is how time is felt, not through clocks or sharp divisions, but through the gentle movement of light, the subtle change of sound, the quiet transition from one task to another. It is a continuous flow, unbroken. And as the afternoon begins to take shape, the city remains steady in its rhythm, never still, never hurried, always moving forward in the same quiet, persistent way. The day is not yet close to ending. There is still much time left, and the city carries on, just as it always does. The afternoon settles slowly over New York City, not as a clear moment, but as a gentle shift that is felt more than seen. The light continues to lower, though it still lingers between the buildings in thin, uneven lines. It no longer reaches as deeply into the streets as it did before. Instead, it rests higher, touching windows and upper walls, leaving the ground below in a softer shade. The air feels heavier now, not uncomfortable, but full. It carries the weight of the day, the movement, the work, the quiet effort that has been unfolding since morning. Even the sounds seem slightly deeper, as if they too have settled into the rhythm of passing time. Footsteps continue, steady and unbroken. Wheels turn with the same patient motion. Voices remain low, never rising beyond what is needed. Along the streets, the pushcart vendors remain at their places, though their movements have slowed. Hands that once worked continuously now pause more often. A brief rest between tasks becomes part of the pattern. A man leans against his cart,
his fingers resting lightly on its wooden edge. His gaze follows the passing figures, not searching for anything specific, simply observing the flow as it moves before him. Nearby, a woman adjusts her goods once more, though there is little left to change. The arrangement has already been set. Now it is maintained, gently, with small movements that keep everything in place. The sense of urgency has softened. What remains is quiet persistence. Further down the street, a group of children moves together, their steps unhurried. The tasks of the morning are behind them, and for a short time, their movement feels lighter. They stay close to one another, their presence forming a small island within the larger flow of the city. Their voices are still soft, but there is a hint of ease in them now. They pass by quickly, becoming part of the distance almost as soon as they appear. Overhead, the sky holds its pale tone, though it has begun to warm slightly. The haze remains, but the color beneath it shifts, becoming softer, less defined. The sun moves slowly, its path steady, its presence constant even when it is not directly seen. Shadows continue to stretch. They grow longer, thinner, reaching across the uneven stone and climbing the lower edges of buildings. These shadows move quietly, unnoticed by most, but always present. Inside the tenements, the rooms begin to change once again. The warmth of the day has settled deeply into the walls and floors. Air moves slowly, if at all. Windows remain open where possible, though they offer only a narrow connection to the outside. Still, that connection is enough. A faint breeze enters, carrying with it the distant sounds of the street. It brushes lightly across the room, then fades, leaving the air as it was before. A woman finishes her work at the table and sits for a moment, her hands resting in her lap. The stillness is brief, but it is held fully. There is no need to fill it. Across the room, a child shifts slightly, adjusting their position on the floor. Their attention moves from one small detail to another, the pattern of light, the sound of a passing cart, the quiet presence of the space around them. Time moves gently here, without pressure, without demand. In the hallway outside, footsteps pass in slow intervals. Someone descends the stairs, their movement careful and measured. The wood creaks softly beneath each step, then returns to stillness once they are gone. The building breathes in this quiet way, holding life within it, letting it move through. Back on the street, the flow continues. A wagon passes, its load lighter than before. The horse moves with the same steady pace, though its head lowers slightly, its movements showing the weight of the hours already traveled. The driver sits quietly, guiding without force. There is no need for urgency now. The day has already taken shape. Nearby, a small shop begins to prepare for the later hours. Items are adjusted, spaces are cleared, small changes made in anticipation of what is to come. The door remains open, but the rhythm inside has shifted. It is no longer the beginning of the day. It is something else, a gradual movement toward evening.
In a narrow side street, the atmosphere remains calm, almost unchanged. The sounds from the main road reach here only as distant layers, softened and slowed. A figure stands briefly in the shade, then moves on without pause. Moments pass quietly, each one blending into the next. Further along, a worker exits a building, pausing just outside the doorway. He inhales slowly, as if noticing the air for the first time in several hours. His shoulders rise slightly, then fall. The pause is small, but it matters. He steps forward, joining the flow of the street once more. Around him, others do the same, leaving one place, entering another.
always moving, always continuing. The afternoon deepens, the light softens further, and with it the city begins to shift again, not in a sudden way, but through a series of quiet adjustments that ripple through every street, every building, every small space where life is being lived. In New York City, survival is not marked by dramatic moments. It is carried in these transitions, in the way the day moves forward without pause, in the way people adapt without resistance, in the quiet endurance that fills each hour, each step, each breath. And as the afternoon continues its slow passage, the city remains steady, holding its rhythm, carrying its people gently toward the evening that waits just ahead. The afternoon continues its slow, unbroken drift, and the light over New York City begins to soften even more. It no longer feels like the center of the day. It feels like something gently moving away. The sun lowers behind the tall rows of buildings, and its presence becomes quieter, less direct. What light remains slips through windows at an angle, resting briefly on worn floors and faded walls before shifting again. Shadows stretch longer now. They reach across the streets, climbing slowly over stone and wood, blending together until they form a single soft layer that covers much of the ground. The rhythm of the city does not stop, but it changes. There is a gradual release in the movement, a subtle easing that comes after many hours of steady effort. The pace remains constant, yet it feels less tightly held, as if the day itself is beginning to loosen its grip. On the streets, workers begin to return. Not all at once, one by one. Small groups appear, stepping out from factories and workshops, their movements calm but marked by the weight of the hours behind them. Their shoulders rest lower. Their steps are steady, though slightly slower than before. They do not speak much. There is no need. The day has already said enough. A man walks along the edge of the street, his hands empty now, his task completed. His gaze moves gently across the familiar path before him. Each step follows the last without thought, guided by memory rather than attention. Around him, others follow similar paths, different directions, the same quiet purpose. Pushcart vendors begin to shift their focus. Some continue their work, offering what remains of their goods. Others begin to gather their items slowly, placing each one back into its proper space. The movements are careful, deliberate, as if preserving order even at the end of the day. Wooden wheels creak again as carts are turned and adjusted. The sound is familiar, comforting in its repetition. Nearby, a child sits at the edge of the sidewalk, watching the movement of feet passing by. There is no urgency in their posture, no need to move quickly. For a moment, they simply observe, their attention drifting from one small detail to another. The world moves around them, and they remain still. Above, the sky begins to shift in tone. The pale color softens into something warmer, though the haze remains, diffusing the light and blending the edges of everything it touches. The change is slow, almost unnoticeable unless one looks for it, but it is there, a quiet sign that the day is moving forward. Inside the tenements, the atmosphere begins to change once more. Doors open, footsteps return. The building fills again with the presence of those who had left in the morning. Their movements are familiar, their paths well known. They enter without hesitation, moving through the narrow hallways with quiet ease. The sounds begin to layer once more. Voices, still soft, but more frequent now. The creak of stairs, the closing of doors. Each sound finds its place within the steady rhythm of the building. In one room, a small lamp is lit. Its glow is gentle, adding a warm tone to the dimming light that still enters through the window. The flame remains steady, casting soft shadows that move slowly across the walls. Preparation for the evening begins, not in a single moment, but in many small actions. Food is gathered, water is set to heat, spaces are rearranged again, shifting from the work of the day to the quieter needs of the night. There is a sense of return in these movements, a quiet coming back. Back on the street, the flow continues, though it feels different now, less outward, more inward. People move with a direction that leads them home, wherever that may be. Their steps carry a subtle sense of completion, even though the day is not yet fully done. A wagon passes more slowly than before, its load lighter, its purpose nearly fulfilled. The horse moves with steady patience, its breath visible again in the cooling air. The driver remains calm, guiding without effort. Nearby, a shopkeeper stands in the doorway of a small store, observing the street. His hands rest at his sides, his posture relaxed. There is no urgency in his presence. He simply watches, taking in the steady passing of the day. From within the shop, the faint scent of goods lingers. Wood, cloth, simple things, shaped by use and time. Further along, the streetcar moves once more along its track, its motion unchanged, its sound steady and familiar. Passengers sit quietly, their bodies still, their thoughts turned inward as they are carried through the city. The rhythm continues, always continuing. In a quieter corner, an alley holds the fading light a little longer. The walls on either side reflect a soft glow, creating a brief moment where the space feels almost still, almost separate from the movement beyond it. A figure passes through. Then the light shifts, and the moment is gone. Time moves in this gentle way, never stopping, never rushing, only flowing forward, carrying everything with it. Inside the tenement, a meal begins to take shape. It is simple, as it always is. Ingredients are limited, but used with care. Hands move slowly, preparing what is needed without waste. The scent of food rises softly, filling the room with a quiet warmth that contrasts with the cooling air outside. A family gathers close, not speaking much, just being near one another. The day has taken its energy. Now there is a need for stillness, for rest. The sounds from the street continue to drift inward, softer now, less defined. They blend with the quieter sounds of the room, the movement of utensils, the low murmur of voices, the steady presence of breathing. Everything feels closer, more contained. As the light continues to fade over New York City, the city does not grow silent. It simply changes its tone. The sharp edges of the day soften. The constant motion becomes more measured. And within this gentle transition, life continues, quietly, steadily, moving from one part of the day into the next, without interruption, without pause. The evening is approaching, slowly, softly, and the city prepares, in its own quiet way, to receive it.
The evening begins to settle over New York City in a slow and quiet way. There is no single moment when day becomes night. Instead, the light simply continues to fade, gently and without resistance. The sky softens into deeper tones, though the haze remains, holding the colors in a muted calm. The last traces of sunlight rest briefly along the upper edges of buildings, then slip away, leaving the streets below in a steady dimness. The city does not stop. It never does, but it begins to draw inward. The movement that once spread outward through the streets now turns back toward the buildings, toward the narrow doorways and dim stairwells where people return at the end of the day. Footsteps change in rhythm. They are no longer part of the outward flow of work and errands. Now they carry a quiet sense of return.
Each step feels more personal, more contained, as if the city itself is gently guiding its people back into smaller spaces. Doors open, then close, each one marking a small arrival. Inside the tenements, the rooms fill again with life. The presence of those who have returned brings a different kind of energy, not loud, not hurried, but fuller. The air shifts slightly as more bodies move within it, as voices become more frequent, though still soft. Lamps are lit one by one. Their light is warm and steady, casting a gentle glow that replaces the fading daylight. Shadows move slowly across the walls, stretching and softening as the flames flicker. A meal is shared. It is simple, as it has been every day. Bread is divided carefully. A small dish is passed from one person to another. Each portion is taken with quiet awareness, ensuring that there is enough for everyone. There is little conversation, only small exchanges, a few words, a nod, a glance. These are enough. The sounds from the street continue, though they are changing. The steady rhythm of daytime activity has softened. Wagons pass less frequently. Voices are fewer, more spaced apart. The city does not fall silent, but it begins to rest in its own way. Outside, a street lamp flickers to life, then another. Their light is faint, creating small circles of visibility along the darkening streets. Between them, shadows gather, forming deeper spaces where the details of the city fade into quiet outlines. A man walks beneath one of these lamps, his figure briefly clear before he passes into dimness again. His steps are slow, unhurried, guided by familiarity rather than sight. The streets feel different now, not empty, but softer. The edges of things blur slightly in the low light. Movement becomes less defined. Sounds carry farther, no longer absorbed by the constant activity of the day. In the distance, a carriage rolls by, its wheels echoing more clearly in the quieter air. The sound lingers for a moment, then fades gradually, leaving behind a gentle stillness. In a small shop, the door is closed for the night. Inside, the shopkeeper moves slowly, putting things in order. Items are returned to their places, surfaces are cleared. The work is done without hurry, each motion calm and deliberate. There is comfort in this routine, in the simple act of finishing. Further along, a group of workers walks together, their steps aligned in quiet rhythm. The day has taken its energy, and now their movements reflect that. There is no need to rush. The path home is known, and it will not change. They pass beneath the dim light, their figures blending into shadow, then reappearing briefly before fading again. Above, the sky deepens. The pale tones of day are replaced by darker shades, though never fully black. The haze softens everything, holding the night in a gentle, muted state. Inside the tenement, the meal comes to an end. Dishes are cleared. Small tasks are completed. The room begins to shift once more, preparing for rest. A mattress is laid out again. Clothing is folded or set aside. The same space that held the movement of the day now becomes a place for stillness. A child lies down first, their bodies settling quickly to rest. Their breathing slows, becoming even and calm. Another follows, adjusting slightly before becoming still. An adult remains awake for a while longer, sitting quietly, not working now, but simply existing within the fading hours of the day. The lamp burns softly, its light steady. Outside, the city continues in its quieter rhythm. A distant voice rises, then fades. A door closes somewhere along the street. Footsteps pass, fewer now, spaced further apart. The air has cooled. It carries the scent of coal once more, drifting from chimneys that continue to burn through the evening. The smell is familiar, constant, part of the city's identity. In a narrow alley,
The darkness settles more deeply. The sounds from the main street reach here only as faint echoes. The space feels still, almost untouched, though it is never truly separate from the life around it. A cat moves quietly along the edge, its steps soft and careful. It pauses briefly, then disappears into shadow. Moments pass like this, small, unnoticed, but part of the whole. Back on the street, a final wagon moves through, its purpose nearly complete. The horse walks slowly, its head low, its breath visible again in the cooler air. The driver sits quietly, guiding without effort, allowing the night to take shape around him. The rhythm of the city continues to soften, not stopping, never stopping, but settling. In New York City, this is how the day ends. Not with a clear line, not with a sudden quiet, but with a gradual fading, where each sound, each movement, each small moment becomes part of a slower, gentler flow. Inside the tenement, the last light is lowered slightly. The room grows dim. The sounds of breathing fill the space, steady and calm. The adult who remained awake finally lies down, closing their eyes, allowing the weight of the day to settle. Outside, the street continues in its quiet way, and the night, soft and patient, takes its place once more over the city.
The night deepens slowly over New York City, not as a sudden darkness, but as a quiet settling. The last traces of evening fade into a steady dimness, where the shapes of buildings soften and the spaces between them grow more still. The street lamps continue their faint glow, holding small islands of light along the long stretches of shadow. Between those lights, the city rests in a gentle hush. Not silent, but quieter. The movement has thinned. Footsteps are fewer now, spaced far apart, each one echoing lightly against the stone before fading into the distance. A carriage passes now and then, its wheels rolling slowly, the sound carried farther in the cooler air. Then it too is gone, leaving only the quiet behind. Inside the tenements, the rooms have settled into rest. The lamps are lowered or extinguished, their soft glow replaced by darkness that feels familiar rather than empty. The walls, which held the warmth and motion of the day, now hold stillness. Breathing fills the space, slow, even, shared among those who lie close together. The air is calm, carrying the faint scent of coal and fabric, of wood and time. It moves only slightly, just enough to remind that the world beyond the walls continues, even if unseen. A child shifts gently in sleep. A blanket is adjusted. Then, stillness returns. In another room, someone turns quietly, the sound barely noticeable, blending into the soft rhythm that surrounds it. The building itself seems to rest, its creaks and subtle movements becoming slower, less frequent. The day has fully passed, but the city remains. Outside, the streets hold their quiet presence. A lone figure walks beneath a street lamp, their shadow stretching briefly before them, then disappearing as they move into darkness again. Their steps are unhurried, guided more by memory than sight. There is no need to rush. The night asks for nothing. Further along, a watchman moves slowly through his route, his presence calm and steady. He carries a lantern, its light swaying gently with each step, casting soft, shifting shapes along the walls and ground. He pauses at intervals, listening, not for anything specific, but simply aware of the space around him. Then he continues. In the distance, a faint sound of water can be heard, perhaps from the nearby docks, where the quiet movement of the harbor never fully stops. The sound is low, almost like a breath, rising and falling without pattern. It blends with everything else, becoming part of the night. In a narrow alley, the darkness is deeper. The walls close in, holding the cool air between them. The ground is still, undisturbed for long stretches of time. A small movement, a soft step,
A quiet rustle passes briefly, then fades. The alley returns to stillness. Moments like these stretch longer at night. Time feels different. Not slower, not faster, just quieter. Back inside the tenement, the hours pass without being marked. There are no clocks needed here, only the gentle rhythm of sleep. Breathing continues, steady, calm. A distant sound reaches the room. A carriage, a voice, something undefined. It lingers at the edge of awareness, then slips away again, leaving the silence intact. The night holds everything softly. It does not press. It does not demand. It simply exists. Above, the sky remains muted, its darkness softened by the haze that never fully clears. There are few stars visible, their light dimmed by the presence of the city below. Still, they remain, quiet and distant, unchanging. The hours continue to pass, one blending into the next. The city, though quieter, never fully rests. Somewhere, a door opens. Somewhere else, a faint light remains. A figure moves through a late task, completing something that could not wait for morning. But these moments are small, scattered. They do not disturb the overall stillness. In New York City, even the night carries a quiet sense of effort. Not the steady labor of the day, but something softer, a continuation of life in its most gentle form. Inside the rooms, sleep deepens. Bodies grow heavier. Movements become less frequent. The space is filled with a calm that feels complete, as if the day has fully settled into rest. Outside, the watchman passes again, his lantern dimmer now, its light smaller as the hours move on. His steps remain steady, marking time in a way that feels almost unnoticed. The street lamps continue their quiet glow. The shadows remain. Nothing changes suddenly. Everything shifts in small, patient ways. And as the night moves towards its deepest hours, the city holds this calm, this quiet presence without interruption. It does not stop. It does not sleep in the way one might expect, but it rests gently within itself, waiting without urgency for the first faint signs of morning that will in time begin to return once more.
The night stretches onward, deepening across New York City with a soft, patient persistence. There is no abrupt arrival of darkness, only the slow folding of evening into night. The air cools gently, carrying faint echoes of the day, the distant clatter of a wagon, the low hum of voices long gone, the quiet scrape of a door closing somewhere far away. Each sound drifts softly, then disappears, leaving the city wrapped in a blanket of calm. In the tenements, the rooms are quiet. The warmth of the day has settled into the walls, now mingling with the cooler night air. Every space is measured, every movement slowed to its simplest form. Hands rest, heads lower, and bodies become still. The soft sigh of breath is a constant presence, steady and soothing. A candle flickers lightly on a windowsill, its flame small yet deliberate. It casts a warm, wavering glow across a faded wall, illuminating threads of fabric, small personal items, and the worn edges of furniture. Shadows dance gently, stretching and shrinking in time with the flame, creating a soft, hypnotic rhythm that fills the room without demanding attention. Outside, the streets are mostly empty. A single lantern lights a corner, its circle of visibility small and calm. Somewhere nearby, a cat moves silently along the edge of a wall, pausing now and then to sniff the air before disappearing into shadow. Its movements are quiet, almost ceremonial, a small living part of the city's nighttime rhythm. Along a distant avenue, the soft echo of a streetcar reaches faintly, its metal wheels rolling over tracks in a slow, regular pulse. The sound is calm and familiar, blending into the night air without urgency. Its passengers sit in subdued stillness, carried gently through the quiet streets, part of the city's unbroken movement even in the dark hours. The sky above is muted, a soft, hazy gray-black that carries the faintest hint of light from the distant horizon. The stars are few, dimmed by the city below, yet present, steady and constant. Their presence offers a quiet reminder of the world beyond, distant yet reassuring in its permanence. Inside one tenement, a small family rests together. The child turns slightly, then settles back, the blankets tucked around them with careful hands. The mother adjusts her own position, watching briefly before closing her eyes. The father lies quietly, arms folded, body still, listening to the faint sounds that drift through the city, from room to room, street to street. Time moves differently at night. It is not marked by the passage of minutes, hours, or schedules. It is measured by the gentle ebb and flow of presence, the soft pulse of breath, the faint movements of shadows, the delicate stirrings of the few who remain awake. A distant factory bell chimes faintly, carried on the cool night air. It is low, unobtrusive, and fades into the background almost immediately. Its sound reminds some, briefly, of the city's constant labor. Yet here, in the quiet hours, the weight of work has softened, leaving only its memory in the rhythm of the streets. Further along, a narrow alley holds its own quiet world. Walls close in, softening the sounds of the main road. A single figure moves slowly through the space, careful with each step, letting the shadows embrace them as they pass. The alley is empty moments later, returning to stillness, holding time gently until needed again. From above, the windows of tenements glow softly in scattered patterns, each light a small witness to the lives that continue within, each a private story unfolding in the calm hours of the night. Curtains flutter slightly with the occasional shift of air, but otherwise everything remains serene, contained, and quiet. The city itself seems to breathe in this way, softly, steadily. Each street, each building, each corner holds the weight of countless small lives, all moving gently together, all continuing without urgency. Even when movement occurs, it is slow and deliberate, part of a larger, unbroken pattern that stretches through every block and every street. And still, the night goes on. Time passes quietly. Footsteps, the faint scraping of carts, the whisper of distant voices, each blends seamlessly into the city's nighttime rhythm. Nothing intrudes. Nothing forces itself forward. Inside the rooms, the final lights are dimmed. The remaining eyes grow heavy. Limbs relax. Minds drift towards sleep. The day's effort settles into the walls, the floors, the quiet air, leaving everyone within the tenements embraced by calm. Outside, the streets remain patient. The lamps flicker softly, their glow steady but gentle. Every shadow moves in tune with the faintest currents of air, the subtle pull of the night's coolness. In New York City, survival, for a single night, feels like this. Quiet, slow, measured, gentle, endless, but calm. The city waits patiently for the first hints of dawn, even as the hours stretch forward, unbroken, carrying everyone and everything softly into the depth of the night.
The night deepens further, folding over New York City like a soft, familiar blanket. Evening's last warmth has faded, leaving a cooler stillness in the air. The haze lingers, muted and gentle, softening the edges of buildings and streets. The city's movement has quieted almost entirely, replaced now by subtle sounds that mark only the presence of life, not its urgency. Inside the tenements, rooms are darker, the lamp glow extinguished or diminished to faint embers. Shadows gather in the corners, but they do not feel threatening. They feel ordinary, even comforting, as if the walls themselves are holding the night for those within. Breathing fills the spaces, soft, rhythmic, a steady reminder that life continues. The sound is gentle, almost musical in its repetition. A child shifts slightly in sleep, sighing softly, then stills again. Another adjusts the blanket over themselves with a small, quiet movement. A parent lies awake just a little longer, listening to the faint sounds from the streets, the creaks of wood and fabric, the muted whispers of the city as it rests. Outside, the streets are nearly empty. A single lantern casts a warm circle of light, but the shadows between stretch longer, softer, less defined. Occasionally, a horse moves slowly along a distant avenue, its hooves echoing quietly, blending into the night. The driver guides it calmly, without hurry. Even the distant clatter of wagons from the docks or faint voices from a late worker feels subdued, unhurried, absorbed into the soft rhythm of night. In the alleys, darkness holds gently. Walls close in, muffling the faraway sounds of the main streets. A stray cat moves carefully along the edges, pausing to sniff the cool air before disappearing into shadow again. Every movement is deliberate, patient, measured. Higher above, the sky is muted. Stars are few but faintly present through the haze, distant points of quiet light. The city below hums softly, carrying its own rhythm, grounded, steady, enduring. Inside, the rooms that once held bustling work now cradle rest. Families lie together in the fading warmth of the day, moving minimally, speaking minimally. The evening has ended, and the night has fully taken hold. A small lamp burns faintly on a windowsill in one tenement, casting delicate shadows across a threadbare table and worn floors. Every object in the room appears softened, as if the light itself carries a soothing weight. A few remaining sounds from the streets reach the ears of those inside, though they feel distant, almost like a dream. The faint wheels of a cart, the slow creak of a door, a single footstep passing. These moments drift past, noted but not urgent. Time seems to stretch differently now. It moves slowly, without the sharp edges of morning or afternoon. It flows gently, measured only by the soft rise and fall of breath, the slow flicker of distant lights, the faint movement of shadows across walls and streets. The air is cool, carrying traces of coal smoke, damp stone, and faint smells of bread and cooking from kitchens long finished. The familiar scents are comforting, holding the city and its people together in quiet continuity. The watchman continues his rounds, lantern in hand, his steps deliberate, echoing faintly. He passes empty streets and quiet corners, steady, calm, marking the hours with patient presence. Every block, every building, every alley carries its own gentle rhythm, blending together to form a larger heartbeat for the city. The pulse of life is quiet but constant, steady, unbroken, even when unseen. In the deepest rooms of the tenements, people sleep fully now. Limbs rest, eyes close, minds drift, guided by the soothing weight of day past and night present. Outside, the city's stillness deepens further. The street lamps glow softly, casting gentle circles of light on quiet stone. Shadows move only with the faintest shift of air. Every movement, every sound is measured, patient, deliberate. The night has become complete. It does not demand, it does not hurry, it simply holds. Holds the city, holds its people, holds the quiet endurance of another day lived, another day survived. And so the hours continued to pass, softly, gently, carrying everything in their slow, unbroken rhythm. The city sleeps, but it is never still. It is alive in quiet ways, in soft breaths, in distant echoes, in shadows that stretch and shift, blending one moment into the next. Here in the heart of New York City, Survival and life continue, wrapped together in the calm, patient rhythm of night. The day has ended, and the city rests.
The hours move quietly forward as the night over New York City deepens into its softest form. There is no sudden darkness. The streets are blanketed gradually in a calm, gentle shadow. The haze above still lingers, muted and thick, carrying the quiet presence of the city through the night. Every building, every alley, every tenement seems softened by this slow, steady descent. Inside, the tenements are wrapped in their own rhythm of stillness. Lamps are extinguished, leaving only the faintest glimmer of moonlight through windows. Shadows gather along walls and corners, stretching long and subtle, painting the rooms in quiet calm. Breathing fills the spaces with slow, steady pulses. The rhythm is unbroken, constant, soothing. Bodies sink deeper into the comfort of blankets and familiar rooms. Limbs relax, heads tilt into pillows, eyes grow heavy. Sleep moves gently across each individual, unhurried, patient. A faint sound drifts in from the street, a distant wagon, the soft scrape of a door, the faint murmur of voices far away. Each sound is carried gently by the cool night air, then slips quietly back into the darkness. It is part of the night, present but never intrusive. Along the streets, a single street lamp casts a small circle of light. Within it, the worn edges of stone and wood are visible, and the rest of the street fades into gentle shadow. Occasionally, a cat passes silently, moving with careful, deliberate steps. It pauses, then disappears into darkness again, leaving the calm intact. Higher above, the night sky is deep and muted. Stars are faint, barely visible through the lingering haze. Their soft, distant light mirrors the quiet of the city below. There is no urgency, no drama, only the steady, patient passage of time. Inside the rooms, quiet tasks are completed in slow, deliberate motions. A small meal is finished for those who remain awake. Dishes are cleared, and surfaces are straightened. The rhythm of preparation has ended, replaced by the stillness of night. Every movement is slow, thoughtful, and deliberate, part of the gentle unfolding of life. Outside, the distant sound of the harbor carries faintly, a low, constant hum of water against piers. The soft ripple of sound blends seamlessly with the city's quiet heartbeat, unnoticed yet ever present. A few late passers-by move along the streets. Their steps are measured, careful, almost ceremonial. A watchman carries his lantern through quiet alleys, casting soft, shifting circles of light. His presence is calm, unobtrusive, a silent guardian of the night's rhythm. In the narrow alleys, darkness is deep and soft. Walls close around empty space, muffling every sound. The air is cool, carrying a hint of coal smoke from distant chimneys. Even in these quiet corners, life continues in its gentle, almost imperceptible movements. A rat passing softly, the flutter of a curtain, the distant echo of someone returning home. The tenements themselves breathe quietly. Wood expands and contracts, floorboards settle, walls hold the warmth of the day alongside the coolness of night. The spaces are filled with presence even when motion is minimal. Time feels different here. It is not measured by hours or minutes, but by the gradual, unhurried movement of life around and within these walls. Each sound, each shadow, each faint stir becomes a marker of existence, a gentle thread in the fabric of the city at night. The air is calm, carrying faint scents, coal smoke, bread, damp stone, and fabric long warmed by human presence. These small, constant reminders hold the city together, grounding its people in familiarity, safety, and the rhythm of life continued. The child sleeps deeply, breathing even and slow. The adult beside them lies quietly, thoughts drifting without urgency. Each small shift is careful, considered, and brief. The room is a sanctuary, quiet, calm,
and steady. Outside, the glow of the street lamps continues to scatter softly across the streets. Shadows bend, stretch, and melt into darkness. The distant echo of wheels and voices rises occasionally, then fades, absorbed into the patient rhythm of the night. In every room, every street, every alley, the city rests without ceasing. It holds its people, its sounds, its life in a calm, continuous flow. Survival here is gentle. It is steady. It is measured not in dramatic moments, but in patient, unbroken endurance. The night deepens further. Everything slows. Everything softens. And New York City continues in its quiet, calm, and unwavering rhythm, carrying all within it gently toward the hours that will, eventually, become dawn. The night stretches deeper over New York City, quiet and patient, carrying the city through its slowest hours. The haze above softens every light, every shape. Shadows fold gently over streets and buildings, merging, stretching, creating spaces that feel both familiar and distant. The air is cool, almost still, carrying faint traces of the day, the smoke from chimneys, the scent of damp stone, the quiet memory of bread baking in kitchens long emptied. Inside the tenements, sleep has taken nearly everyone. Children rest deeply, their chests rising and falling with soft, even breaths. Adults lie quietly, relaxed into their beds or floor mats, letting the day's fatigue dissolve into the steady, gentle rhythm of the night. The few remaining sounds are soft, comforting. A door closes far away. A floorboard creaks under a careful step. A faint whisper drifts along a hallway. Each sound is small, deliberate, absorbed into the quiet, adding to the city's gentle heartbeat. A lone cat passes through an alley, careful and deliberate. It pauses for a moment, sniffing the air, then disappears into darkness again. Far off, the distant echo of a carriage or a wagon carries faintly, blending seamlessly into the quiet. The harbor whispers its presence, water brushing slowly against piers, wood groaning gently, soft lapping echoing faintly. The city listens, absorbing every subtle sound, blending them into the calm rhythm that moves through every street and alley. Street lamps glow faintly, casting gentle circles of light. Within these small pools, the edges of stone, brick, and wood are illuminated softly, while beyond them shadows stretch, long and gentle. The city feels contained, wrapped in quiet comfort. In one tenement, a faint lamp still burns, casting a soft glow on worn walls and furniture. Its light flickers gently, shadows moving slowly across floors, walls, and ceilings. The effect is hypnotic, calming, like a quiet heartbeat echoing through the room. Time moves differently at this hour. It is not measured by hours or minutes, but by subtle rhythms, the rise and fall of breath, the quiet stirrings of a body shifting in sleep, the slow movement of shadows along walls. Each moment is gentle, deliberate, unhurried. A watchman continues his slow patrol. His lantern sways with each step, casting moving circles of soft light across empty streets. His footsteps echo briefly before fading, absorbed into the stillness. He is patient, deliberate, a quiet witness to the city's uninterrupted rhythm. The tenements themselves seem alive in their quiet way. Wood shifts, walls settle, floors sigh faintly. Every sound is absorbed, softened, blending into the city's slow pulse. The rooms cradle the people within, holding them safely, securely in the gentle night. Outside, the streets breathe. The city exhales slowly, carrying the warmth, presence, and memory of the day into the shadows of the night. A faint wind moves through alleys, brushing against windows and walls, gentle and unhurried, a soft accompaniment to the calm. Everything is slow, deliberate, measured.
Life continues, quietly, imperceptibly. Even in stillness, the city moves, softly, softly, carrying the weight of survival in its patient rhythm. In New York City, survival is not sudden. It is not dramatic. It is gentle, patient, continuous. The night holds all within it. The city rests around them, and the hours flow forward, softly, calmly, patiently, toward the final depth of night before the first tender light of morning begins its return.
The night deepens further, folding slowly over New York City, softening every edge and shadow. There is no sudden arrival of darkness, only a gradual stillness that spreads across streets, buildings, and alleys. The haze lingers, thick and gentle, diffusing the glow of lamps into faint, soft pools of light. Shadows stretch, bend, and merge, creating spaces that feel quiet, familiar, and safe. Inside the tenements, the rooms are calm and steady. Sleep has settled fully on most of the city's inhabitants. Children breathe softly, their bodies relaxed, limbs tucked beneath blankets or mats. Adults lie still, their heads resting lightly, minds adrift in the slow tide of rest. A faint sound moves through the night, a distant carriage, the soft scrape of a floorboard, a whisper of air through an open window. Each sound is gentle, absorbed quickly into the calm, adding only to the rhythm of the city rather than disturbing it. Outside, the streets are nearly empty. Occasional figures move slowly, deliberately, guided more by memory than by sight. A stray cat prowls quietly along an alley, its steps careful, deliberate, and patient. Its movements leave no sudden sound, only a soft presence that blends with the city's pulse. The distant harbor hums faintly. Water brushes against the piers, a gentle, repeated sound. The lapping of waves is soft, rhythmic, almost imperceptible. It becomes part of the larger, unbroken calm of the city at night. Street lamps cast circles of warm light along empty streets. Within these, the edges of worn stone, brick, and wood are visible, softened by the gentle illumination. Beyond the circles, shadows stretch into the quiet, forming long, patient shapes that seem to hold the city together. Inside the tenements, faint lights still burn here and there. Their glow flickers gently, casting soft, moving shadows that shift slowly across walls and floors. Every flicker, every small movement carries a calming rhythm, steady and unhurried. Time at this hour is different, not measured in minutes or hours, but in the rise and fall of breath, in the slow, gentle movements of those awake, and in the quiet, deliberate passage of shadows. Each instant flows seamlessly into the next, creating a continuous, soothing rhythm. A watchman moves slowly along his route. The lantern he carries swings gently with his steps, casting soft pools of light that merge into the quiet of the streets. His presence is patient, deliberate, unhurried, marking time in a way that feels almost unnoticed but reassuring. The tenements themselves seem to hold their breath. Wood settles, walls sigh faintly, floors move subtly under the weight of the building and the people within. The rooms cradle every occupant, holding them in gentle comfort as the night continues its quiet passage. Outside, the city breathes. Streets exhale slowly, carrying with them warmth, the memory of the day, and the constant rhythm of life. A faint wind moves through alleys and courtyards, brushing softly against doors and windows, a gentle accompaniment to the city's calm. Everything is patient. Everything is deliberate. Even in stillness, the city continues its rhythm. It moves softly, carrying the weight of life, of survival, of ordinary existence in unbroken, gentle continuity. In New York City, survival at night is not loud, it is not urgent, it is measured in these slow, steady, patient rhythms. The night holds everything. The city rests gently, and the hours flow forward silently, softly, calmly, until the first faint traces of morning will begin to touch the haze, and the slow, quiet rhythm of the city will begin its next day.
The night continues its long, gentle stretch across New York City, holding the city in a calm, patient embrace. Darkness is soft, softened further by the lingering haze that diffuses the faint glow of street lamps. Shadows blend together, folding slowly across streets, alleyways, and the worn facades of tenements. Each space seems quieter, safer, as if the city itself breathes a slow, steady sigh. Inside the tenements, rooms are still. Sleep has settled fully upon most of the inhabitants. Children rest quietly, their small chests rising and falling with rhythmic ease. Adults lie calmly, allowing their minds and bodies to drift into the steady, slow tide of rest. The few sounds that remain are minimal and comforting: a soft footstep, the faint creak of a floorboard, a low murmur from a distant street. Each is absorbed gently into the night, becoming part of the city's continuous, unhurried rhythm. Outside, the streets are empty except for occasional figures moving carefully through the soft shadows. Every step is deliberate, unhurried, guided more by memory than sight. A cat prowls quietly along the edge of a building, pausing briefly before continuing its silent passage. The harbor whispers in the distance. Water brushes softly against piers and hulls, lapping with a calm, steady rhythm. The sound carries faintly on the cool night air, blending into the muted pulse of the city. Street lamps glow faintly, each circle of light casting a gentle warmth on the worn stones and brick. Shadows stretch, bend, and overlap beyond these small pools, creating a quiet, measured landscape. The night seems to hold everything in gentle containment, neither harsh nor imposing. In the rooms, lamps flicker gently where they remain. Their soft, wavering light casts moving shadows across walls and furniture, forming a slow, hypnotic rhythm. Each subtle movement encourages calm, offering a gentle cadence to the night. Time flows differently now. It is unhurried, patient, measured, not in minutes or hours, but in small, deliberate motions, the rise and fall of breath, the quiet stirrings of a body in sleep, the soft sway of a lantern in a watchman's hand. Every moment folds seamlessly into the next, forming an unbroken, calming rhythm. A watchman passes along the streets, lantern swinging gently with each step. His slow, deliberate movements are part of the city's rhythm, reassuring in their consistency. Each step echoes faintly, absorbed by the surrounding shadows. The tenements seem to breathe along with the city. Wood creaks quietly, walls settle, floors sigh with subtle shifts. The spaces cradle every occupant, holding them in calm, gentle comfort as the night stretches onward. Outside, the streets remain patient and steady. Warmth from the day, faint traces of coal smoke, the subtle smell of damp stone, all linger softly in the cool air. A gentle breeze drifts through narrow alleys, brushing against doors and windows, blending with the faint pulse of life still present in the city. Everything slows, everything softens. Even in stillness, the city continues its gentle rhythm, carrying the weight of survival, the quiet endurance of its people, in a calm, unbroken flow. In New York City, the night is measured in these patient, subtle, enduring rhythms. It holds all within it. The city rests.
and the hours pass softly, calmly, quietly, carrying everyone forward toward the eventual first touch of dawn. The night carries on, soft and unhurried, over New York City, holding every street, building, and alley in gentle quiet. The darkness is softened by the lingering haze, which blurs the faint glow of street lamps into diffuse circles of light. Shadows stretch slowly, folding over each other, creating shapes that feel calm and familiar. The city itself seems to breathe in these hours, exhaling softly and evenly. Inside the tenements, most rooms have surrendered fully to sleep. Children lie still, their chests rising and falling with quiet rhythm. Adults rest alongside them, their bodies relaxed, minds drifting without thought or tension. Each movement, however slight, a turn, a sigh, the rustle of a blanket, is absorbed into the stillness, barely noticeable, gentle. Outside, the streets are mostly empty. A few figures move slowly, deliberately, their steps careful and measured. A cat prowls along a shadowed alley, pausing now and then, before melting quietly back into darkness. Even the distant echo of wheels or voices is softened, blending seamlessly into the night. The harbor carries a faint hum. Water brushes softly against piers, a rhythmic, steady sound that rises and falls like a calm breath. The sound drifts over the city, faint yet constant, joining the other subtle, unhurried rhythms of night. Street lamps cast soft circles of light on the worn stones and brickwork, illuminating the edges of sidewalks and building facades. Beyond the glow, shadows stretch long and patient, blending into the calm spaces between buildings. The city seems to exist in this soft balance, light and shadow, movement and stillness, all held gently together. Inside, a few lamps flicker, their glow warm but faint. Shadows ripple slowly across walls, furniture, and floors, creating a gentle cadence. These subtle movements form part of the city's rhythm, steady and comforting, a quiet heartbeat shared by every occupant. Time at this hour is not measured by hours or minutes. It moves in subtle, imperceptible rhythms, the rise and fall of breath, the soft shifting of a body in sleep, the faint sway of a lantern carried slowly along a street. Each moment folds seamlessly into each other, forming a continuous, soothing flow that stretches across the city. The watchman continues his slow rounds, lantern swinging gently with each step. His presence is calm and deliberate, echoing softly in the quiet streets before fading again. Each measured step marks the night without intrusion, a comforting continuity in the stillness. The tenements seem to hold their occupants tenderly. Wood shifts, walls settle, floors breathe softly. Every small sound blends into the quiet pulse of life, steady and unbroken, carrying both the people and the buildings gently forward. Outside, the streets exhale softly. Warmth from the day, faint coal smoke, the subtle smell of damp stone, all drift quietly in the cool air. The city holds itself patiently, without demand, without rush, letting the night pass slowly, deliberately, with care. Everything is calm. Everything is soft. Even in apparent stillness, the city's rhythm continues, gentle, steady, patient. Life, survival, and endurance all exist in this quiet, subtle flow. In New York City, night is measured not by action, but by these gentle, unbroken rhythms. The city holds all within it, and the hours move forward softly, quietly, patiently, toward the eventual first hint of morning light. The night deepens, stretching endlessly over New York City, carrying with it a quiet, steady rhythm. Darkness is soft and enveloping, softened further by the lingering haze. The faint glow of street lamps scatters gently, creating small, warm circles of light.
Shadows fold slowly over streets and buildings, merging and stretching without urgency. The city feels calm, patient, as though it holds its breath in quiet anticipation of dawn. Inside the tenements, rooms are still. Sleep has claimed nearly everyone. Children rest quietly, their breathing slow and even. Adults lie still beside them, bodies relaxed, minds drifting gently in the hush of night. Small movements, a turn of a head, a sigh, the rustle of blankets, are absorbed by the quiet, unnoticed, gentle. Occasionally, a soft sound drifts from outside. A floorboard creaks in a distant hallway. A door closes gently. A far-off carriage rolls slowly along the street. Each sound is minimal, almost inaudible, and quickly absorbed into the stillness, adding only to the soft, unbroken rhythm of the city. A lone cat prowls an alley, careful and deliberate in its movements. Its steps make no sudden noise, only a faint, patient presence. Occasionally, distant voices echo softly, then vanish, carried away by the cool night air. The harbor murmurs in the distance. Water brushes against piers with quiet repetition, rising and falling like slow, gentle breaths. The sound blends seamlessly into the calm pulse of the city, steady and reassuring. Street lamps glow faintly along the worn streets, casting light across stones, bricks, and building edges. Beyond the light, shadows stretch long and soft, forming a quiet, patient landscape. The night seems to hold everything gently, balancing light and shadow, movement and stillness. Within the rooms, faint lamps flicker, casting shadows that move slowly across walls and floors. Each subtle shift forms part of the city's rhythm, a quiet, unhurried pulse that fills every space with calm. Time passes differently at this hour. It is not marked by minutes or hours, but by the slow rise and fall of breath, the faint stirrings of bodies in sleep, the gentle sway of a lantern in a watchman's hands. Moments flow seamlessly into one another, creating an unbroken, soothing continuity. A watchman moves deliberately through the streets. His lantern swings gently, casting moving circles of light that touch walls and streets, then fade into shadow. Each measured step reassures the quiet, steady rhythm of the night. The tenements breathe softly. Wood settles, walls shift faintly, floors move subtly under the weight of those within. Every small sound blends into the overall calm, forming a continuous, gentle pulse that carries both people and buildings forward through the night. Outside, streets exhale slowly. Warmth from the day, traces of coal smoke, and the faint smell of damp stone linger in the air. A soft breeze drifts through alleys and windows, brushing gently, moving everything quietly in unison. Everything slows, everything softens. Even in stillness, the city continues its rhythm, gentle and steady, carrying the weight of survival and the quiet endurance of its people. In New York City, night is measured in patient, unbroken rhythms. The city holds all within it. And the hours pass softly, quietly, deliberately toward the eventual tender touch of dawn.
The night flows onward, unhurried, over New York City, holding every street, every alley, every tenement in its soft embrace. Darkness is calm, softened by the lingering haze that diffuses the faint glow of street lamps. Shadows stretch gently, folding across stone and brick, merging into spaces that feel quiet, contained, and familiar. The city exhales slowly, a steady, gentle rhythm that carries through every corner. Inside the tenements, sleep is deep and steady. Children lie with their bodies relaxed, blankets tucked softly around them. Adults rest quietly, minds drifting in the gentle tide of night. Every movement, slight shift, sigh, or turn is absorbed into the calm, unnoticed, soft. From outside comes the occasional subtle sound, the faraway scrape of a cart,
the soft murmur of voices, a distant door closing. Each is faint, absorbed quickly into the stillness, blending seamlessly with the quiet pulse of the city. A cat prowls an alley, moving carefully along the edge of a building. Its steps are slow, deliberate, measured, blending naturally with the rhythm of the night. Far off, the faint echo of footsteps or wheels rises, then fades, leaving the quiet intact. The harbor whispers in soft tones. Water laps gently against piers and hulls, rising and falling with steady, almost musical repetition. The sound drifts across the city, faint but constant, part of the city's gentle, unbroken heartbeat. Street lamps cast warm, small circles of light along empty streets. Within these gentle pools, the edges of stone, brick, and wood appear softened, intimate. Beyond them, shadows stretch long and quiet, folding over each other, forming a calm, patient landscape. Inside the rooms, faint lamps flicker in a few corners. Their warm light moves slowly across walls and furniture, forming delicate patterns of shadow and glow. These subtle movements become part of the city's rhythm, steady, unhurried, and comforting. Time passes differently in this quiet. It is measured not by minutes or hours, but by the slow rise and fall of breath, the gentle shifting of bodies in sleep, the subtle sway of a lantern in a watchman's hand. Each moment flows naturally into the next, forming an unbroken, soothing cadence. A watchman walks slowly through the streets, lantern swinging gently. His light illuminates small patches of pavement before merging back into shadow. Each step is deliberate, measured, calm, marking the night's steady passage. The tenements themselves seem to breathe along with the city. Wood creaks softly, walls settle quietly, floors shift subtly. Every sound is absorbed into the calm, forming a gentle pulse that carries the weight of life forward through the night. Outside, the streets exhale the warmth and memory of the day. Faint coal smoke drifts, damp stone scents linger, and a gentle breeze moves through alleys and windows. Every detail blends into the soft, patient rhythm of the city. Everything slows, everything softens. Even in stillness, the city continues to move, gentle, steady, patient. Survival, life, and endurance exist in these quiet, continuous flows. In New York City, night is measured in soft, unbroken rhythms. The city holds all within it, and the hours pass quietly, softly, calmly toward the first hint of morning light, when the next day will begin.
The night lingers still over New York City, stretching every shadow and softening every edge. Darkness here is gentle, not heavy. The lingering haze turns street lamp light into faint, warm pools, while shadows bend and fold slowly across streets and buildings. The city breathes quietly, a calm rhythm carried through every alley, every tenement, every quiet space. Inside the tenements, sleep deepens. Children lie motionless, limbs relaxed, blankets soft around them. Adults rest, heads tilted lightly, bodies still, minds drifting in the gentle tide of night. Every soft sigh, every tiny stir, every rustle of fabric is absorbed, becoming part of the continuous, patient rhythm of the rooms. From the streets comes the occasional quiet sound, a distant cart moving slowly over cobblestones, a door closed gently, faint voices drifting far away. Each sound is minimal, absorbed into the calm, part of the city's subtle heartbeat, never intrusive. A cat moves silently through an alley, careful and deliberate. Its paws press softly on stone, pausing for a moment before continuing on. Even the faintest sounds of distant feet or wheels blend into the hush of the night, maintaining its gentle continuity. The harbor whispers far off. Water brushes softly against piers, rises and falls in slow, rhythmic waves. The sound drifts through the city, faint but steady, a quiet companion to the stillness of streets and tenements alike. Street lamps cast faint, warm circles of light. Within them, worn stone, brick, and wood edges are softly visible. Beyond, shadows stretch long, calm, patient, folding into one another in a seamless, gentle landscape. Inside, faint lamps flicker here and there. Their light moves slowly across walls, furniture, and floors, casting soft shadows that blend and shift. Each subtle movement becomes part of the night's rhythm, steady and soothing, continuous and deliberate. Time at this hour flows differently. It is measured not in minutes, but in quiet, patient rhythms. The rise and fall of breath, the gentle sway of a lantern, the soft shifting of a body in sleep. Every soft sigh, every tiny stir, every rustle of fabric is absorbed, becoming part of the continuous, patient rhythm of the rooms. A watchman moves slowly through empty streets. His lantern sways gently with each step, illuminating small patches of pavement before fading again into shadow. Each measured footstep reassures the city's quiet, patient flow. The tenements themselves seem to breathe softly with the city. Wood sighs quietly, walls settle, floors shift under the weight of life. Every subtle sound blends into the calm, forming a slow, steady pulse that carries both people and buildings through the night. Outside, the streets exhale traces of warmth, faint coal smoke and damp stone. A soft wind moves through alleys and courtyards, brushing doors and windows. Every small detail joins the gentle, patient rhythm of the city. Everything slows. Everything softens. Even in stillness, the city moves, steady, gentle, patient. Life and survival continue in these quiet, unbroken flows. In New York City, night exists in patient, calm rhythms. The city holds all within it, and the hours pass softly, quietly, gently, carrying everything toward the first tender light of dawn.
The night stretches onward over New York City, calm, slow, and unhurried. Darkness here is gentle, softened further by the lingering haze. Street lamps scatter faint pools of warm light across worn streets and brick sidewalks. Shadows fold slowly over buildings and alleyways, merging seamlessly into the quiet of the city. Every edge, every corner seems softened by the stillness that blankets the night. Inside the tenements, sleep has settled fully. Children lie with their small bodies relaxed, blankets wrapped softly around them. Adults rest quietly, heads tilted lightly on pillows or mats, their minds drifting gently in the soft tide of night. Every subtle movement, the sigh of a sleeper, the shift of a blanket, the faint creak of a floorboard is absorbed into the stillness, becoming part of the city's gentle rhythm. From the streets comes the occasional faint sound, a distant cart, the low murmur of voices far away, a soft closing of a door. Each sound is minimal, absorbed into the calm, almost like it is part of the night itself. A lone cat prowls quietly along a shadowed alley, stepping carefully and deliberately. Its paws make no sudden noise, only a faint, gentle presence that blends naturally into the rhythm of the city. Occasionally, the soft echo of distant footsteps rises, then fades into the haze of the night. The harbor whispers far off. Water brushes slowly against piers and hulls, rising and falling in gentle, rhythmic motions. The sound drifts softly through the city, steady, constant, comforting. Street lamps cast soft, small circles of light along empty streets. Within these warm circles, edges of stone and brick appear softened, intimate. Beyond, shadows stretch long, calm, and patient, folding into one another, forming a quiet, measured landscape. Inside the tenements, faint lamps flicker gently. Their glow moves slowly across walls, furniture, and floors, casting soft shadows that ripple in calm, unhurried patterns. Each subtle movement becomes part of the city's rhythm, steady, continuous, and soothing. Time at this hour flows differently. It is not measured by minutes or hours, but by small, deliberate rhythms, the rise and fall of breath, the soft sway of a lantern in a watchman's hand, the quiet shifts of sleeping bodies. Moments fold seamlessly into one another, forming a long, continuous, gentle cadence. A watchman moves slowly along the streets. His lantern sways with each step, casting moving circles of light across stone and brick before fading gently into shadow. Each measured footstep reassures the calm, steady pulse of the city. The tenements seem alive in their quiet way. Wood settles softly, walls shift faintly, floors move under the weight of those within. Every small sound blends into the night's calm, forming a steady pulse that carries both people and buildings forward through the hours. Outside, the streets exhale faint warmth from the day. Coal smoke lingers, damp stone scents drift softly, and a gentle wind moves quietly through alleys and windows. Every detail joins the city's patient rhythm, soft, continuous, unhurried. Everything slows, everything softens. Even in apparent stillness, the city continues its gentle, steady rhythm. Life, endurance, survival, all move quietly, softly, without rush. In New York City, night is measured in these patient, unbroken rhythms. The city holds everything within it, and the hours flow forward, silently, calmly, softly, carrying all toward the first tender light of morning. The night remains long and gentle over New York City, stretching softly across streets, tenements, and alleys. Darkness is calm, softened further by the lingering haze that turns every lamp into a small, warm pool of light. Shadows fold slowly over buildings and streets, stretching quietly, blending together without urgency. The city breathes, a slow, steady rhythm carrying life gently through every corner. Inside the tenements, sleep is deep and uninterrupted. Children rest quietly, bodies relaxed, blankets wrapped softly around them. Adults lie beside them, minds adrift, letting the gentle tide of night carry away the weight of the day. Each subtle motion, a small sigh, a shift of the body, the rustle of fabric, is absorbed into the stillness, forming part of the city's calm pulse. Outside, the streets are nearly empty. Occasionally, a figure passes slowly, each step deliberate and careful, blending naturally with the soft shadows. A cat prowls silently along the edges of buildings, its paws pressing softly against the stones. The faint echo of distant wheels or voices drifts briefly, then vanishes, leaving the calm unbroken. The harbor murmurs softly in the distance. Water brushes slowly against piers and hulls, rising and falling with quiet, rhythmic patience. Its presence is subtle, almost imperceptible, yet it carries a gentle continuity, part of the city's heartbeat in the quiet hours. Street lamps glow faintly, casting warm circles of light across worn stone and brick. Within these pools, the edges of sidewalks and buildings appear softened, intimate. Beyond the light, shadows stretch long and patient, folding over each other, forming a landscape of calm and safety.
Inside the rooms, faint lamps flicker, moving shadows across walls and floors. Each subtle change, each gentle movement becomes part of the city's rhythm, steady, unhurried, and soothing. Time passes differently here. It is measured not by hours or minutes, but by subtle, deliberate motions, the rise and fall of breath, the soft sway of a lantern, the slight shifting of a body in sleep. Each moment folds into one another seamlessly, forming a long, continuous, gentle cadence. A watchman moves slowly along the streets, lantern swinging with each step. His circles of light illuminate small sections of pavement before merging back into shadow. Each measured footstep reinforces the city's quiet, patient flow, a soft reassurance in the stillness. The tenements breathe with the night. Wood creaks softly, walls settle quietly, floors shift under the weight of life within. Every sound is absorbed into the calm, forming a steady, gentle pulse that carries people and buildings alike through the hours. Outside, the streets exhale traces of warmth from the day. Faint coal smoke drifts, the scent of damp stone lingers, and a soft breeze brushes alleys and windows. Every subtle detail joins the patient rhythm of the city. Everything slows, everything softens. Even in stillness, New York City continues its gentle, steady rhythm. Life, endurance, and quiet survival all flow softly, unbroken, and patient. The city holds all within it. And the hours pass gently, quietly, steadily, toward the eventual first hints of morning light.
The night continues, long and gentle, over New York City, carrying every street, alley, and tenement in a soft, unhurried embrace. Darkness is calm and forgiving, softened by the lingering haze that turns street lamp light into faint, warm pools. Shadows fold slowly across buildings, stones, and bricks, merging seamlessly into the quiet of the night. The city breathes, a gentle, steady rhythm moving through every corner. Inside the tenements, sleep has deepened further. Children lie still, blankets soft around their small bodies. Adults rest quietly beside them, letting their minds drift gently with the slow, calming tide of night. Each faint sigh, shift, or rustle is absorbed into the stillness, becoming part of the quiet pulse of the city. Outside, the streets are nearly empty. Occasionally, a lone figure moves slowly, deliberately, steps careful, blending into the soft shadows. A cat prowls silently along an alley, its paws pressing lightly against stone. Faint echoes of distant wheels or voices drift briefly before vanishing into the calm. The harbor whispers in soft tones. Water brushes gently against piers and hulls, rising and falling with steady, rhythmic patience. The sound drifts over the city, quiet, constant, and reassuring. Street lamps glow faintly, casting small, warm circles of light across worn stones and brick. Within these pools, edges of sidewalks and buildings appear soft, intimate. Beyond, shadows stretch long and patient, folding over one another, forming a calm, measured landscape. Inside the rooms, faint lamps flicker. Their warm glow moves slowly across walls and floors, creating soft, shifting patterns of shadow. Each subtle movement becomes part of the night's rhythm, continuous, steady, and soothing. Time flows differently in these hours, not in minutes or hours, but in patient, deliberate rhythms. The rise and fall of breath, the gentle sway of a lantern, the faint stir of a body in sleep. Moments fold into one another naturally, forming a calm, unbroken cadence. A watchman continues his slow patrol. Lanterns swinging gently, he illuminates small sections of the streets before fading back into shadow. Each measured step reassures the quiet, steady pulse of the night. The tenements breathe softly along with the city. Wood creaks faintly, walls settle, floors shift under the weight of life inside. Every sound is absorbed into the calm, forming a gentle, steady pulse carrying the city and its people through the night. Outside, the streets exhale warmth from the day. Faint coal smoke lingers, damp stone scents drift softly, and a gentle breeze brushes through alleys and windows. Every subtle detail joins the patient rhythm of the city. Everything slows, everything softens. Even in stillness, New York City continues its gentle, steady rhythm. Life, endurance, and survival flow softly, unbroken, patient. The city holds all within it, and the hours pass quietly, softly, calmly, toward the first hint of morning light when the day will begin again.
The night remains soft and patient over New York City, stretching quietly across every street, alley, and tenement. Darkness is gentle, softened by the lingering haze. Street lamps scatter faint, warm circles of light, their glow brushing softly against stone and brick. Shadows stretch slowly, folding over each surface, merging and blending into the calm. The city breathes quietly, a steady, patient rhythm moving through every corner. Inside the tenements, sleep has deepened further. Children lie quietly, small chests rising and falling with even rhythm. Adults rest beside them, bodies still, minds drifting gently in the soft tide of night. Every faint sigh, subtle shift, or rustle of a blanket is absorbed into the calm, forming part of the city's unbroken rhythm. From the streets, the occasional soft sound drifts in, a distant carriage moving slowly, a far-off voice, the gentle closing of a door. Each sound is small, absorbed into the stillness, part of the night's continuous, gentle pulse. A cat moves quietly along a shadowed alley, stepping carefully along the stone. Its presence is faint but deliberate, blending naturally into the calm rhythm of the city. Faint echoes of distant wheels or voices drift briefly, then vanish into the haze of the night. The harbor whispers in the distance. Water brushes softly against piers and hulls, rising and falling with steady, rhythmic patience. The sound drifts through the city, faint yet constant, joining the quiet heartbeat of the streets and tenements. Street lamps cast soft, small circles of light along empty streets. Within them, worn stone, brick, and wood edges appear softened, intimate. Beyond, shadows stretch long and patient, folding over one another in quiet, measured forms. Inside the rooms, faint lamps flicker gently. Their warm glow moves slowly across walls and furniture, casting soft shadows that ripple in calm, unhurried patterns. These subtle movements become part of the city's rhythm, steady and soothing. Time flows differently now. It is measured not by minutes or hours, but by subtle, deliberate rhythms, the rise and fall of breath, the gentle sway of a lantern in the watchman's hand, the soft shifting of sleeping bodies. Moments fold into one another naturally, forming a long, continuous, gentle cadence. A watchman moves slowly along the streets, lanterns swinging with each step. Small pools of light illuminate worn stones and brick before merging back into shadow. Each measured step reassures the calm, steady pulse of the city. The tenements seem alive in quiet ways. Wood shifts softly, walls settle, floors move under the weight of life inside. Every small sound blends into the calm, forming a steady pulse that carries the city and its people gently through the hours. Outside, the streets exhale faint warmth from the day. Traces of coal smoke linger, the smell of damp stone drifts softly, and a gentle breeze brushes alleys and windows. Every subtle detail joins the patient, unhurried rhythm of the city.
Everything slows, everything softens. Even in stillness, New York City continues its gentle, steady rhythm. Life, quiet endurance, and survival flow softly, unbroken, and patient. The city holds all within it, and the hours pass silently, softly, calmly, carrying everything toward the tender first light of morning.
The night stretches on, calm and unhurried, over New York City, wrapping every street, alley, and tenement in a soft, quiet embrace. Darkness is gentle, softened by the lingering haze. Street lamps scatter faint, warm pools of light, illuminating worn stones, brick sidewalks, and the edges of buildings. Shadows fold slowly across surfaces, merging seamlessly into the stillness of the city. The air feels steady, patient, and carrying a subtle, continuous rhythm. Inside the tenements, sleep is deep and undisturbed. Children rest quietly, blankets tucked gently around their small bodies. Adults lie still, their minds drifting in the slow, comforting tide of night. Each faint sigh, small turn, or rustle of fabric becomes part of the city's soft, unbroken rhythm. Outside, the streets are mostly empty. Occasionally, a figure moves slowly, steps deliberate and careful, blending into the quiet shadows. A cat prowls silently along a narrow alley, its paws pressing lightly against stone, moving with patient ease. Faint echoes of distant wheels or voices rise briefly, then fade gently into the night. The harbor whispers softly in the distance. Water brushes against piers and hulls, rising and falling with gentle, rhythmic patience. The faint sound drifts across the city, steady and reassuring, joining the quiet heartbeat of streets and tenements alike. Street lamps cast small, soft circles of light on empty streets. Within their glow, worn stones and bricks appear softened, intimate. Beyond, shadows stretch long and patient, folding over each other, forming a calm, measured landscape. Inside, faint lamps flicker here and there. Their warm glow moves slowly across walls, furniture, and floors, casting soft shadows that shift in quiet, unhurried patterns. Each subtle movement becomes part of the night's rhythm, steady, soothing, and continuous. Time passes differently in these hours. It is measured not in minutes or hours, but in quiet, deliberate motions. The rise and fall of breath, the gentle sway of a lantern, the soft shifting of a sleeper. Moments fold into one another seamlessly, forming a long, continuous, gentle cadence. A watchman moves slowly along the streets, lanterns swinging with each step. Small pools of light illuminate sections of pavement before fading back into shadow. Each measured footstep reassures the calm, steady pulse of the city. The tenements breathe softly with the city. Wood creaks quietly, walls settle, floors shift under the weight of life inside. Every sound is absorbed into the calm, forming a gentle pulse that carries the city and its people through the night. Outside, the streets exhale traces of the day's warmth. Coal smoke lingers, damp stone scents drift softly, and a gentle breeze brushes alleys and windows. Every detail joins the patient rhythm of the city. Everything slows, everything softens. Even in stillness, New York City continues its gentle, steady rhythm. Life, quiet endurance, and survival flow softly, unbroken, and patient. The city holds all within it, and the hours pass silently, softly, calmly, carrying all toward the tender first light of morning. The night continues its quiet sweep across New York City, soft and unhurried. Darkness is gentle, softened by the lingering haze that transforms street lamps into warm, hazy pools of light.
Shadows stretch slowly across buildings and streets, folding over themselves in calm, measured layers. The city breathes quietly, its rhythm steady and unbroken, carrying life gently through each corner. Inside the tenements, sleep is deep and undisturbed. Children rest quietly, their small bodies relaxed beneath soft blankets. Adults lie nearby, heads tilted lightly on pillows or mats, letting the gentle tide of night carry away the weight of the day. Every subtle sigh, shift, or rustle of fabric blends seamlessly into the stillness, forming part of the city's continuous, soothing rhythm. Outside, the streets remain almost empty. Occasionally, a lone figure moves slowly, deliberate and careful, merging naturally with the shadows. A cat prowls quietly along a narrow alley, its paws pressing softly against stone. Faint echoes of distant wheels or voices rise briefly and fade gently into the night. The harbor whispers far away. Water brushes softly against piers and hulls, rising and falling with quiet, rhythmic patience. The faint sound drifts through the city, steady and calming, part of the heartbeat of streets and tenements alike. Street lamps cast small, soft circles of light along empty streets. Within their glow, worn stones and bricks appear intimate, softened. Beyond, shadows stretch long and patient, folding into one another, forming a gentle, measured landscape. Inside, faint lamps flicker gently. Their warm light moves slowly across walls, furniture, and floors, casting soft, shifting shadows that become part of the city's rhythm. Each subtle movement is steady, unhurried, and soothing. Time moves differently now. It is not measured in minutes or hours, but in subtle, deliberate rhythms, the rise and fall of breath, the gentle sway of a lantern, the quiet stir of a sleeper. Moments fold naturally into one another, forming a continuous, calming cadence. A watchman moves slowly along the streets, lanterns swinging gently. Small pools of light illuminate patches of pavement before fading into shadow. Each careful step reinforces the calm, steady pulse of the city. The tenements breathe softly along with the night. Wood shifts quietly, walls settle, floors move under the weight of life within. Every faint sound blends into the calm, forming a gentle pulse that carries the city and its people through the hours. Outside, the streets exhale warmth from the day. Coal smoke drifts faintly, damp stone scents linger, and a soft breeze brushes alleys and windows. Every detail becomes part of the patient rhythm of the city. Everything slows, everything softens. Even in stillness, New York City continues its gentle, steady rhythm. Life, quiet endurance, and survival move softly, unbroken and patient. The city holds all within it, and the hours pass quietly, softly, calmly, toward the tender early hints of morning light.
The night continues its gentle sweep over New York City, calm and unhurried, as if it carries the city softly in its arms. Darkness rests lightly on every street, alley, and tenement. The lingering haze softens the glow of street lamps, turning each into a warm, hazy circle of light. Shadows stretch slowly, fold over themselves, and blend into the quiet spaces between buildings. The city seems to breathe in slow, steady rhythms, carrying life gently through every corner. Inside the tenements, sleep has deepened. Children lie quietly, chests rising and falling with even rhythm beneath soft blankets. Adults rest beside them, heads tilted lightly on pillows or folded arms, letting the night's gentle tide carry away the day's small burdens. Each soft sigh, subtle shift, or rustle of cloth is absorbed into the stillness, becoming part of the city's soothing pulse. From the streets comes the occasional faint sound, distant wheels moving slowly over cobblestones, a door closing gently, the low murmur of voices far away. Each sound is small, absorbed into the calm, forming part of the night's quiet, unbroken rhythm. A watchman moves slowly along the streets, lanterns swinging gently. Pools of light illuminate small patches of pavement before merging back into shadow. Each measured step reassures the quiet, steady pulse of the city. The tenements themselves breathe softly with the night. Wood creaks faintly, walls settle quietly, floors shift under the weight of life inside. Every small sound blends into the calm, forming a steady pulse that carries both people and buildings gently through the hours. Outside, the streets exhale faint warmth from the day. Faint coal smoke drifts lightly, damp stone scents linger, and a gentle breeze brushes alleys and windows. Every subtle detail joins the patient, unhurried rhythm of the city. Everything slows, everything softens. Even in stillness, New York City continues its gentle, steady rhythm. Life, endurance, and quiet survival move softly, unbroken, and patient. The city holds all within it, and the hours pass softly, quietly, gently toward the early, tender light of morning. The night drifts slowly onward over New York City, quiet, steady, and patient. Darkness rests softly on streets, alleys, and tenements, softened by the lingering haze that turns street lamp light into warm, diffuse pools. Shadows stretch slowly across stone and brick, folding into the calm, blending with the stillness that settles over the city. Every corner breathes quietly, moving in gentle, measured rhythms. Inside the tenements, sleep is deep and undisturbed. Children rest quietly, small bodies relaxed beneath soft blankets. Adults lie nearby, heads tilted lightly, letting the night carry them gently in its soft tide. Each faint sigh, subtle shift, or rustle of fabric becomes part of the continuous, unbroken pulse of the city. Outside, the streets are nearly empty. Occasionally, a lone figure moves slowly, steps careful and deliberate, merging into the shadows. A cat prowls silently along narrow alleys, pressing softly against stone, moving with patient ease. Faint echoes of distant wheels or voices rise briefly, then vanish gently into the night. The harbor murmurs in the distance. Water brushes gently against piers and hulls, rising and falling in slow, rhythmic repetition. The sound drifts softly over the city, steady and reassuring, part of the heartbeat that threads through streets and tenements alike. Street lamps cast soft, small circles of light along empty streets. Within these gentle pools, worn stones and brick edges appear intimate, softened by the calm. Beyond them, shadows stretch long, patient, folding over one another in a calm, measured landscape. Inside, faint lamps flicker gently. Their warm glow moves slowly across walls, furniture, and floors, casting soft, shifting shadows. Each subtle movement becomes part of the city's steady, soothing rhythm. Time passes differently at this hour, not in minutes or hours, but in small, deliberate, patient rhythms. The rise and fall of breath, the gentle sway of a lantern, the quiet stir of sleeping bodies. Moments fold seamlessly into one another, forming a calm, continuous cadence. A watchman moves slowly along the streets, lanterns swinging gently. Pools of light illuminate small patches of pavement before merging back into shadow. Each measured step reassures the quiet, steady heartbeat of the city. The tenements themselves breathe softly with the night. Wood shifts faintly, walls settle quietly, floors move under the weight of life inside. Every small sound blends into the calm, forming a steady pulse that carries both people and buildings gently through the night. Outside, the streets exhale faint warmth from the day. Coal smoke drifts lightly, damp stone scents linger, and a gentle breeze brushes alleys and windows. Every subtle detail joins the patient, unhurried rhythm of the city. Everything slows, everything softens. Even in stillness, New York City continues its gentle, steady rhythm. Life, endurance, and quiet survival move softly, unbroken, and patient. The city holds all within it, and the hours pass softly, quietly, gently toward the early, tender light of morning. The night stretches on quietly over New York City, calm, patient, and steady. Darkness rests gently on streets, alleys, and tenements. The lingering haze softens the glow of street lamps, turning them into faint, warm circles of light that touch worn stone and brick with delicate warmth. Shadows stretch slowly, folding over each surface, blending seamlessly into the stillness. The city seems to breathe with a quiet, measured rhythm, carrying life gently through every corner. Inside the tenements, sleep runs deep. Children lie quietly, small bodies relaxed beneath soft blankets. Adults rest beside them, heads tilted lightly, letting the slow, comforting tide of night carry away the day's burdens. Each faint sigh, shift, or rustle of fabric becomes part of the city's continuous, unbroken rhythm. Outside, streets remain nearly empty. Occasionally, a lone figure moves slowly, deliberate and careful, merging naturally into the shadows. A cat prowls silently along narrow alleys, its paws pressing lightly against stone. Faint echoes of distant wheels or voices rise briefly, then vanish into the night, leaving the calm unbroken. The harbor whispers softly in the distance. Water brushes gently against piers and hulls, rising and falling with steady, rhythmic patience. Its sound drifts across the city, faint yet constant, a quiet companion to the streets and tenements alike. Street lamps cast soft circles of light along empty streets. Within these pools, worn stones and bricks appear intimate, softened. Beyond the light, shadows stretch long, patient, folding into one another in calm, measured forms. Inside, faint lamps flicker gently. Their warm glow moves slowly across walls, floors, and furniture, casting soft, shifting shadows. Each subtle movement becomes part of the city's rhythm, steady, continuous, and soothing. Time passes differently now, not in minutes or hours, but in deliberate, gentle rhythms. The rise and fall of breath, the soft sway of a lantern, the quiet stir of sleeping bodies. Moments fold into one another naturally, forming a long, continuous, gentle cadence. A watchman moves slowly along the streets, lantern swinging softly. Small pools of light illuminate patches of pavement before fading back into shadow. Each careful step reassures the calm, steady heartbeat of the city. The tenements breathe softly along with the night. Wood creaks faintly, walls settle, floors shift under the weight of life inside. Every subtle sound blends into the calm, forming a steady pulse that carries the city and its people through the hours. Outside, streets exhale faint warmth from the day. Coal smoke drifts lightly, damp stone scents linger, and a gentle breeze brushes alleys and windows. Every small detail joins the patient, unhurried rhythm of the city. Everything slows, everything softens. Even in stillness, New York City continues its gentle, steady rhythm. Life, quiet endurance, and survival flow softly, unbroken, and patient. The city holds all within it, and the hours pass quietly, softly, calmly, toward the first tender light of morning. The night lingers softly over New York City, stretching slowly across streets, alleys, and tenements, holding everything in a calm, quiet embrace. Darkness rests lightly on stone and brick, softened by the lingering haze that turns street lamplight into gentle, warm pools. Shadows fold slowly across buildings, blending seamlessly into the stillness. The city breathes quietly, its rhythm steady, patient and unhurried, carrying life gently through every corner. Inside the tenements, sleep is deep. Children rest quietly, small bodies relaxed beneath soft blankets. Adults rest beside them, heads tilted lightly, letting the slow, comforting tide of night carry away the day's burdens. Each faint sigh, shift, or rustle of fabric becomes part of the city's continuous, soothing pulse. From the streets comes the occasional faint sound, distant wheels over cobblestones, a door closing softly, voices carried far away. Each is small, absorbed into the calm, part of the night's unbroken rhythm. A cat moves silently along a narrow alley, paws pressing lightly against stone. Occasionally, distant footsteps or faint clatters rise briefly, then vanish, swallowed by the calm night. The harbor whispers softly in the distance. Water brushes against piers and hulls, rising and falling with gentle rhythmic patience. Its faint sound drifts through the city, constant and steady, a quiet companion to the streets and tenements alike. Street lamps cast soft circles of light along empty streets. Within these pools, worn stones and bricks appear intimate, softened. Beyond the light, shadows stretch long, patient, folding into one another in calm, measured forms. Inside, faint lamps flicker gently. Their warm glow moves slowly across walls, floors, and furniture, casting soft, shifting shadows. Each subtle movement becomes part of the city's rhythm, steady, continuous, and soothing. Time passes differently now, not in minutes or hours, but in deliberate, gentle rhythms, the rise and fall of breath, the soft sway of a lantern, the quiet stir of sleeping bodies. Moments fold into one another naturally, forming a long, continuous, gentle cadence. A watchman moves slowly along the streets, lantern swinging softly. Small pools of light illuminate patches of pavement before fading back into shadow. Each careful step reassures the calm, steady heartbeat of the city. The tenements breathe softly along with the night. Wood creaks faintly, walls settle, floors shift under the weight of life inside. Every subtle sound blends into the calm, forming a steady pulse that carries the city and its people through the hours. Outside, streets exhale faint warmth from the day. Coal smoke drifts lightly, damp stone scents linger, and a gentle breeze brushes alleys and windows. Every small detail joins the patient, unhurried rhythm of the city. Everything slows, everything softens. Even in stillness, New York City continues its gentle, steady rhythm. Life, quiet endurance, and survival flow softly, unbroken, and patient. The city holds all within it, and the hours pass quietly, softly, calmly, toward the first tender light of morning. The night lingers softly over New York City, stretching slowly across streets, alleys, and tenements, holding everything in a calm, quiet embrace. Darkness rests lightly on stone and brick, softened by the lingering haze that turns street lamplight into gentle, warm pools. Shadows fold slowly across buildings, blending seamlessly into the stillness. The city breathes quietly, its rhythm steady, patient, and unhurried, carrying life gently through every corner. Inside the tenements, sleep is deep. Children rest quietly, small bodies relaxed beneath soft blankets. Adults rest beside them, heads tilted lightly, letting the slow, comforting tide of night carry away the day's burdens.
Each faint sigh, shift, or rustle of fabric becomes part of the city's continuous, soothing pulse. From the streets comes the occasional faint sound, distant wheels over cobblestones, a door closing softly, voices carried far away. Each is small, absorbed into the calm, part of the night's unbroken rhythm. A cat moves silently along a narrow alley, paws pressing lightly against stone. Occasionally, distant footsteps or faint clatters rise briefly, then vanish, swallowed by the calm night. The harbor whispers softly in the distance. Water brushes against piers and hulls, rising and falling with gentle rhythmic patience. Its faint sound drifts through the city, constant and steady, a quiet companion to the streets and tenements alike. Street lamps cast soft circles of light along empty streets. Within these pools, worn stones and bricks appear intimate, softened. Beyond the light, shadows stretch long, patient, folding into one another in calm, measured forms. Inside, faint lamps flicker gently. Their warm glow moves slowly across walls, floors, and furniture.
The night remains long and gentle over New York City, carrying every street, alley, and tenement in a soft, patient embrace. Darkness rests lightly on stone and brick, softened by the lingering haze that turns the glow of street lamps into faint, warm circles of light. Shadows stretch slowly, folding across buildings, sidewalks, and doorways, blending seamlessly into the stillness. The city breathes quietly, its rhythm steady, unhurried, carrying life gently through every corner. Inside the tenements, sleep runs deep. Children lie quietly, their small bodies wrapped in soft blankets. Adults rest beside them, heads tilted lightly, letting the gentle tide of night carry them through the hours. Every faint sigh, subtle shift or rustle of fabric becomes part of the city's continuous, soothing pulse. Outside, streets are mostly empty. Occasionally, a lone figure moves slowly, deliberate and careful, blending naturally with the shadows. A cat prowls silently along narrow alleys, its paws pressing lightly against stone. Faint echoes of distant wheels or voices rise briefly, then vanish gently into the calm of night. The harbor whispers far away. Water brushes softly against piers and hulls, rising and falling with steady, rhythmic patience. Its sound drifts across the city, faint yet constant, part of the heartbeat threading through streets and tenements alike. Street lamps cast soft circles of light along empty streets. Within their warm glow, worn stones and brick appear softened, intimate. Beyond, shadows stretch long, patient, folding over one another, forming a calm, measured landscape. Inside, faint lamps flicker gently. Their glow moves slowly across walls, furniture, and floors, casting soft shadows that shift quietly, unhurried. Each subtle movement becomes part of the city's rhythm, steady, continuous, and soothing. Time passes differently at this hour, not in minutes or hours, but in small, deliberate rhythms, the rise and fall of breath, the sway of a lantern, the quiet stir of sleeping bodies. Moments fold into one another naturally, forming a long, continuous, calm cadence. A watchman moves slowly along the streets, lantern swinging gently, small pools of light illuminate patches of pavement before merging back into shadow. Each measured step reassures the calm, steady heartbeat of the city. The tenements breathe softly along with the night. Wood shifts faintly, walls settle quietly, floors move under the weight of life inside. Every small sound blends into the calm, forming a gentle pulse that carries both people and buildings through the hours. Outside, streets exhale traces of warmth from the day. Coal smoke drifts lightly, damp stone scents linger, and a gentle breeze brushes alleys and windows. Every subtle detail joins the patient, unhurried rhythm of the city. Everything slows. Everything softens. Even in stillness, New York City continues its gentle, steady rhythm. Life, quiet endurance, and survival flow softly, unbroken, and patient. The city holds all within it. And the hours pass silently, softly, calmly, toward the tender first light of morning. The night stretches onward over New York City, quiet, steady, and gentle, folding every street, alley, and tenement in its soft embrace. Darkness rests lightly on stone and brick, softened by the lingering haze that turns the glow of street lamps into faint, warm circles of light. Shadows stretch slowly, folding across buildings, sidewalks, and doorways, blending seamlessly into the stillness. The city breathes quietly, its rhythm steady, unhurried, carrying life gently through every corner. Inside the tenements, sleep runs deep. Children lie quietly, their small bodies wrapped in soft blankets. Adults rest beside them, heads tilted lightly, letting the gentle tide of night carry them away the burdens of the day. Each faint sigh, subtle shift or rustle of fabric becomes part of the city's continuous, soothing pulse. Outside, streets are mostly empty. Occasionally, a lone figure moves slowly, deliberate and careful, blending naturally with the shadows. A cat prowls silently along narrow alleys, its paws pressing lightly against stone. Faint echoes of distant wheels or voices rise briefly, then vanish gently into the calm of night. The harbor whispers far away. Water brushes softly against piers and hulls, rising and falling with steady, rhythmic patience. Its sound drifts across the city, faint yet constant, part of the heartbeat threading through streets and tenements alike. Street lamps cast soft circles of light along empty streets. Within their warm glow, worn stones and brick appear softened, intimate. Beyond, shadows stretch long, patient, folding over one another, forming a calm, measured landscape. Inside, faint lamps flicker gently. Their glow moves slowly across walls, furniture, and floors, casting soft shadows that shift quietly, unhurried. Each subtle movement becomes part of the city's rhythm, steady, continuous, and soothing. Time passes differently at this hour, not in minutes or hours, but in small, deliberate rhythms, the rise and fall of breath, the sway of a lantern, the quiet stir of sleeping bodies. Moments fold into one another naturally, forming a long, continuous, calm cadence. A watchman moves slowly along the streets, lanterns swinging gently, small pools of light illuminate patches of pavement before merging back into shadow. Each measured step reassures the calm, steady heartbeat of the city. The tenements breathe softly along with the night. Wood shifts faintly, walls settle quietly, floors move under the weight of life inside. Every small sound blends into the calm, forming a gentle pulse that carries both people and buildings through the hours. Outside, streets exhale traces of warmth from the day. Coal smoke drifts lightly, damp stone scents linger, and a gentle breeze brushes alleys and windows. Every subtle detail joins the patient, unhurried rhythm of the city. Everything slows. Everything softens. Even in stillness, New York City continues its gentle, steady rhythm. Life, quiet endurance, and survival flow softly, unbroken, and patient. The city holds all within it. And the hours pass silently, softly, calmly, toward the tender first light of morning.
The night finally begins to fade, leaving a soft, quiet stillness over New York City. The streets, once shadowed and calm, now catch the first hints of light, delicate and pale, brushing gently over stone and brick. Tenements rest quietly in the early morning hush. Children stir softly, wrapped in blankets, their breaths slow and steady. Adults shift lightly, easing into the calm promise of a new day. The harbor whispers softly, water brushing against piers and hulls with patient, rhythmic patience. Street lamps flicker faintly before surrendering to the gentle brightness of dawn. Shadows stretch and fade, folding into the soft morning light. The city breathes quietly, carrying the echoes of the night in its measured, patient rhythm. Coal smoke drifts faintly, damp stone scents linger, and a gentle breeze brushes the streets and alleys. Every corner, every building, every whisper of life feels held in a calm, steady embrace. Time flows slowly here, measured not by hours, but by the steady rise and fall of breath, the soft shifting of bodies, and the quiet persistence of the city itself. New York, USA, has survived another night. Its streets, tenements, and people continue gently, patiently, unhurriedly. Life endures. Quiet perseverance continues, and the city holds all within it. As the light grows, the night's soft embrace lingers for a moment longer, a gentle reminder of calm, continuity, and quiet survival. And so the history settles, softly, peacefully, quietly, fading like the last traces of a long, gentle night. The story of surviving 1905 New York City, with all its hardships and quiet endurance, rests now in calm stillness, leaving only the gentle pulse of the city, steady and eternal.